1542. You're lying on the couch, and you can't relax. Nothing is wrong. No deadline is chasing you. No one needs anything from you right now. And still, some part of your mind is running a quiet tally of everything you should be doing instead. The laundry, the emails, the thing you keep meaning to start. You tell yourself you'll rest for just a minute, but the minute never actually arrives. Something in you won't let it. Your brain isn't broken. There's a reason this happens. For most of your life, you've been taught that rest has to be earned, not given, earned, like a reward that only exists after enough work has been done to deserve it. So when you sit still without having done enough, your nervous system doesn't read it as peace. It reads it as a violation of the rule. And that's when the guilt shows up, not because you did something wrong, but because you did nothing at all. Here's the strange part. Doing nothing should be the easiest thing in the world. So why does it feel like work? In 2010, behavioral scientist Christopher C. ran a study at the University of Chicago that revealed something uncomfortable about how humans handle idle time. Participants were given a choice: sit and wait doing nothing, or walk further to complete a pointless task and then wait. Most people chose the pointless task, not because it was enjoyable, because being busy, even meaninglessly busy, felt better than being still. C called this idleness aversion. Your brain would rather manufacture a reason to move than sit inside the discomfort of stopping. That discomfort has a name too. It's called existential guilt. Not guilt over a specific action, but guilt over simply being, without producing anything to justify the space you're taking up. And in a culture that measures your worth by your output, that guilt gets reinforced every single day. You post about your hustle. You get praised for your exhaustion. Somewhere along the way, tired became a personality trait instead of a warning sign. Think about the last time someone asked how you were doing. What did you say? If you're like most people, you said busy, not happy, not okay, busy, because busy sounds like proof. Proof that you matter. Proof that you're contributing. Proof that you haven't fallen behind in a race you never agreed to run. And the moment you stop moving, even for an afternoon, that proof disappears. What's left is just you. Quiet. Unproductive. And somehow, that feels like failure. Notice how specific this feeling is. It's not the same as boredom. Boredom is the absence of stimulation. This is different. This is the presence of a quiet accusation, the sense that you're being watched by some invisible evaluator, tallying up whether you've earned the right to sit still. You check your phone, not because you need anything on it, but because the checking feels like motion. Motion feels like effort. And effort, somewhere along the way, became the only currency that counted. It shows up in small, almost invisible ways. You eat lunch at your desk instead of a park bench, because a park bench feels indulgent. You watch a show but keep a second screen open, folding laundry or scrolling messages, because watching alone feels like wasted time. You go on vacation and still answer emails, because full absence feels irresponsible. None of these are conscious decisions. They're reflexes. And reflexes are built through repetition, not through logic. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. It's the mechanism that makes it possible. German psychologist Sabine Sonnentag has spent decades studying what she calls psychological detachment, the ability to mentally step away from work, not just physically. Her research found something consistent across industries and job types. People who fully disengage during their off hours, without guilt, without checking in, without mentally rehearsing tomorrow's tasks, came back sharper, more creative, less prone to burnout. The rest wasn't a break from the work. It was part of the work. Your brain doesn't just store information while you're active. It consolidates it while you're still. So if rest genuinely makes you better at everything else, why does it still feel like you're getting away with something? Because somewhere early on, you learned that love and approval were conditional. Maybe it wasn't said out loud. Maybe it was just the pattern. A parent who noticed you more when you brought home a good grade. A teacher who praised effort but never mentioned ease. A household where stillness was mistaken for laziness, and laziness was treated like a character flaw. Children absorb these patterns quickly. And by adulthood, the message has become internal. You don't need someone else to remind you to keep moving. You do it to yourself, automatically, before you've even noticed you're doing it. This is where the guilt actually comes from. Not from resting. From what resting represents to a nervous system that learned safety meant staying useful. And it doesn't stay contained to childhood. It follows you into adulthood and gets rebranded over and over by every environment you move through. Your first job praised the person who never took a lunch break. Your social feed rewards the version of you that looks tired in an aesthetically pleasing way. Up before sunrise, gym before work, side project after hours. Somewhere, someone is always doing more than you, and the algorithm makes sure you see them. So even your downtime becomes a comparison exercise. You rest, but you rest anxiously, half watching the world to make sure it isn't lapping you. This is the modern mirror of an old wound. The specific shape has changed. It used to be a parent's approval. Now it's a metric, a follower count, a manager's Slack status. But the underlying mechanism is identical. Your worth, learned early, got tied to visible output. And nothing about adulthood ever asked you to question that link. It just gave you more places to perform it. Researcher and author Alex Soo-Young Kim Pang, who studied the working habits of history's most accomplished scientists, writers, and inventors, found a pattern that contradicts almost everything modern hustle culture insists on. The most prolific, high-output people in history didn't work more hours than everyone else. Many of them worked deliberately less, often 4 hours of focused effort a day, and protected long stretches of unstructured rest around it. Charles Darwin took long walks in the middle of his workday, not because he had time to spare, because the walking was where his best thinking actually happened. The rest wasn't separate from the achievement. It was the hidden engine behind it. So the question isn't whether you deserve to rest. The question is why you were ever taught that you had to ask. Consider what actually happens inside your brain during genuine, guilt-free rest. When you stop actively focusing on a task, a network of brain regions called the default mode network activates. It's not idle. It's doing something different, connecting ideas that weren't consciously linked before, processing emotional experiences from the day, running quiet simulations that feel, from the outside, like doing absolutely nothing. This is why your best ideas so rarely arrive at your desk. They arrive in the shower, on a walk, right before sleep. Your brain was working the whole time. It just wasn't working the way you've been taught to recognize as valid. That's the twist almost nobody prepares you for. The version of you that feels like it's falling behind while resting is often the version that's closest to a breakthrough. The stillness isn't a gap in your productivity. It's the quiet lead up to it. Here's something worth sitting with. Every animal in nature rests without apology. A lion doesn't feel guilty for sleeping 16 hours a day. A bird doesn't second-guess a moment of stillness on a branch. Rest, for every other living thing, is simply part of being alive, not a reward, not a luxury, not something to be negotiated for. Somewhere in the story of human progress, we convinced ourselves we were the exception, that our value had to be manufactured, hour by hour, or it didn't count. But your body was never asking you to prove anything. It was only ever asking you to listen. You already know this, somewhere underneath the guilt. You felt the difference between a rest that restores you and a rest that doesn't count because you didn't earn it. But that distinction was never really about the rest itself. It was about permission. And permission is something you were taught to seek outside of yourself, from a parent's approval, a boss's acknowledgement, a friend's admission that they, too, are exhausted, which somehow makes your own exhaustion valid. As if stillness needed a witness to be real. It doesn't. It never did. Think about what it would mean to rest the way a child does before they learn any of this. A child doesn't announce that they've earned their nap. They don't scroll through a mental list of accomplishments before allowing themselves to sit in the grass and do nothing. They simply notice they're tired, and they stop. No justification required. Somewhere between that and now, stopping became something you had to defend. Next time you catch yourself lying still, feeling that low hum of guilt creeping in, try noticing it without obeying it. Notice the urge to get up and do something productive just to make the feeling go away. And instead, ask yourself a different question. Not have I earned this, but what does my mind actually need right now? Because the guilt isn't information about your worth. It's an old rule, running quietly in the background, mistaking your stillness for a threat. Rest doesn't need to be justified with exhaustion. It doesn't need a receipt. It doesn't need to follow a long enough list of finished tasks to count as deserved. It's not the prize at the end of effort. It's the space that makes the next effort possible at all. 1542, you're still on the couch. But something has shifted. The guilt hasn't disappeared completely. Old patterns rarely vanish all at once. It might show up again tomorrow,